demonstrated its essential role in protecting our fundamental freedoms. Now, some take the historic success of the Voting Rights Act as a sign that we no longer need its protections. But as Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, that's like throwing away your umbrella in a rainstorm because you are not getting wet. So think about it. Now the law's future is in real jeopardy, and so are the rights of millions of Americans. I understand that as part of this centennial celebration, thousands of Deltas marched through the streets of this city, retracing the steps of your founders who insisted on the right to vote. Well, as the scriptures say, don't grow weary doing good, because we need you back. Once again, we need you out there, walking the walk, making your voices heard. I was in the Senate in 2006 when we unanimously reauthorized the Voting Rights Act. It was an example of putting principles ahead of politics, and that is exactly what we need to do again. We have to urge this Congress to put aside politics once more and pass legislation to replace those portions of the Voting Rights Act that the courts struck down. This is something that my friend and Delta and former Congresswoman Stephanie Tubbs Jones and I worked on together when she was in the House and I was in the Senate. After the 2004 election, Stephanie and I held a hearing in Cleveland where we heard story after story about how hard it was for Americans to exercise their right to vote. The idea that in the 21st century, African Americans would wait in line to vote for 10 hours while whites in an affluent precinct next door waited just 10 minutes, or that African Americans would receive flyers telling them the wrong time and day to exercise their constitutional rights. That is not the America we expect or the America we want for our children. I had the great privilege of traveling on your behalf to 112 countries. That is not the America we want to serve as a model for the rest of the world either. Now, there are problems in life that we can't fix, or at least ones that seem like they are nearly insolvable. But preserving fairness and equality in our voting system is one we can, we should, and we must fix. And unless Congress acts, you know, and I know, more obstacles are on their way. They're going to make it difficult for poor people, elderly people, working people, minority people to be able to do what we should take for granted. To be viewed as equal under the law with anybody else. To be able to cast their vote. So we need you again, Deltas. We need you to make calls and send emails. We need you to follow closely what obstacles are being cooked up in your states and try to stand against those. And if they go through, to try to make sure that they don't work. You know, if some elderly person doesn't have a birth certificate, which you and I know exists, then we're going to have to figure out, if we can't overturn the law right now, we're going to have to figure out how we get them something that meets whatever requirement is put on their backs. I want to make sure that in the next election, and the next election, and the next, and everyone after that, people line up to vote, and they vote regardless of those who may not want to count their votes or acknowledge their right to vote. here in the United States, we've made a lot of progress over the years, thanks in part to great deltas like Shirley Chisholm and Barbara Jordan. And so many others. So, we have American women at high levels of government, business, and academia. Leaders like my dear friend, former Secretary of Labor, Alexis Herman. Congresswoman Marcia Fudge, former Delta president. Wherever you see women advancing, you see Deltas. But you know the questions that we ask each other and ourselves. They're age-old questions about how to make our way in male-dominated fields, how to balance the demands of work and family. When The Economist magazine recently published what they called a glass ceiling index, ranking countries based on factors like opportunities for women in the workplace and equal pay, the United States of America was not even in the top 10 countries. Wow. Worse, recent studies have found that on average, women live shorter lives in America than in any other major industrialized country. Think about that for a minute. We are the richest, most powerful country in the world, yet many American women are living shorter lives than their mothers, especially those with the least education and the fewest economic opportunities. Now, there's no single explanation for why that's happening. Prescription drug abuse, overdoses have spiked, obesity, smoking, lack of health insurance, persistent poverty and unemployment, a sense that lives and communities are hollowing out. But for too many of our sisters, opportunities and the dream of upward mobility, the American dream, the human dream, remains elusive. The yearning for that dream, for ourselves and for all, has been part of Delta Sigma Theta since your beginning 100 years ago. So you know this is not the way America is supposed to be. I think of the extraordinary sacrifices my mother made to survive her own difficult childhood, to give me a life of opportunity along with love and inspiration. And as dark as some of her days were, she never lost hope in a better future. Now I'm proud my own daughter is pursuing her dreams. It would have been hard to imagine 30 years ago. That's what we want for our children. That's what we want to see them achieve. That's the legacy for the next generation. So yes, Delta means change, and that's what we need. To empower women to participate fully in our economy and society, to make equal pay a reality, to expand family and medical leave benefits to more workers, to encourage more women and girls to pursue careers in math and science, to stand against violence wherever it strikes, and to stand up for voting rights whenever there's an election. But during the last 4 years, when I was so privileged to serve as President Obama's Secretary of State, I saw firsthand how much our nation's values of freedom and equality mean to people who share our aspirations but often lack our opportunities. I often said that talent may be universal, but opportunity is not. America is at our best when we live up to our values, when we help more people, starting here at home, and then expanding out across the world in more places to pursue their God-given potential. As you know, this summer is not only your 100th anniversary, this summer is also the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington. Yesterday I heard that you heard from Reverend Bernice King. Her message and her father's message is as important important today as it was on that steaming, hot afternoon nearly 5 decades ago. When I was a young girl, I had the privilege of going with my church group in Chicago to hear Dr. King speak. Our youth minister took us all out on a cold January night to hear from this man who was being talked about, who had a message that needed to be heard, not just in Selma, but in Chicago, and New York, and LA, and South Africa, and everywhere else. The sermon I heard him deliver that night was titled, "Remaining Awake Through a Great Revolution." As some of you may have heard it, because he delivered it more than once, I'm told. I sat on the edge of my seat as he challenged us all to stay engaged in the cause of justice, not to slumber while the world changed around us. Well, the world is still changing, and it is up to us to shape that change. Yes, it can be frustrating, it can be exhausting when you think you finally climbed to the top of the hill, and then an avalanche pushes you back down. So we all need to be a little more Delta. We all need to be part of this sisterhood of service. To ask ourselves, what more can we do in our own lives, our communities, our country, and the world to help solve problems and to serve others? Now that's what I'll be doing, as I've done for much of my life, and now in the foundation with my daughter and my husband, the Bill, Hilary, and Chelsea Clinton Foundation, to carry forward my lifelong commitment to create opportunities for women and girls, to create jobs for young people, men and women alike, who deserve to have a chance to have their own dreams fulfilled. And I'll return to the work I started all those years ago with Marian Wright Edelman and Dorothy Hyde at the Children's Defense Fund, continued in Arkansas in the White House and the Senate. How do we help more parents to be their children's first teachers, to improve their health and well-being? We know that how you interact with children in the very earliest months and years of life, and their brain development and nutrition will determine what kind of lives they will have. So there's great work to be done. It's exciting. And we can do it together. We see the results over and over again. If we focus on the youngest among us, this project I'm calling Too Small to Fail, we can help change lives. We can help shape that future. So for me, being here is a great treat, a great privilege, and a chance to say thank you. You know, remember the words of the great Mary McLeod Bethune. A Delta does not desire power or plaudits. Her glory is found in the purpose of lifting up others. That is